This video note demonstrates configuring rounded corners with CSS3. As you've worked with borders in the box model, you may have begun to notice a lot of rectangles on your web pages. CSS3 introduces the border radius property, which can be used to create rounded corners and soften up those rectangles. When you work with CSS3, you need to be aware of browser rendering engines. The WebKit browser rendering engine is used by Safari and Google Chrome. The Gecko browser rendering engine is used by Firefox and other Mozilla-based browsers. The Presto browser rendering engine is used by the Opera browser. The Trident browser rendering or layout engine is used by recent versions of Internet Explorer, including version 9. The border radius property is part of the W3C's CSS Level 3 Backgrounds and Borders module. This module was still in candidate recommendation status early in 2012. Check the W3C website for updates. Browser vendors have been eager to implement the border radius property. When a long-awaited property is not yet official, it's common for the developers of browser rendering engines to create their own proprietary properties. Safari and Chrome browsers support the WebKit prefix, Firefox supports the Moz prefix, Opera supports the O prefix, and Internet Explorer supports the MS prefix. Safari, Chrome, and Firefox were early adopters of their proprietary border radius properties. Internet Explorer did not support border radius at all until version 9 and adopted the W3C syntax. Opera supports the W3C syntax. Then you need to code 3 different style declarations to round those corners with border radius. WebKit border radius for Safari and Chrome, Moz border radius for Firefox, and border radius, which is the W3C syntax. The Opera and Internet Explorer 9 browsers support the W3 syntax for border radius. Eventually, all browsers will support the W3C syntax border radius property, so code this property last in your list. This code sample configures an H1 selector with a light blue background color, 10 pixels of padding, a 3-pixel ridge dark border, and rounded corners with a value of border radius set to 15 pixels. Note that the browser proprietary properties are listed before the W3C syntax. You can configure the border radius property with 1, 2, 3, or 4 values. The values can be numeric units, like a pixel or em unit, or percentages. If you code one value, it configures the radius of all the corners. Here's an example with border radius set to 15 pixels. If you code 4 values, you can set the radius value for each corner. The order is top left, top right, bottom left. Here's an example with border radius set to 15 pixels for the top left corner, 30 pixels for the top right corner, 100 pixels for the bottom right corner, and 5 pixels for the bottom left corner. If you code 2 values, the first value configures the top left and bottom right corners, and the second value configures the top right and bottom left corners. If you code 3 values, the first value configures the top left corner, the second value configures the top right and bottom left corners, and the third value configures the bottom right corner. The CSS3 border radius property makes it easy to configure elements with rounded corners on web pages.